Today I wanted to go over decoupage. Now here I have my piece that I'm going to start with. I begin my decoupage by prepping my piece. I primed this and I painted it white to make sure that my images pop off the page when I decoupage. Today I'll be using a Roycycled Decoupage sheet. These are 18-pound tissue papers and they come in 20 by 30 inch sheets. Now because this area is smaller, I'll have to decide which piece I want to show on this particular project. So I'm going to really focus on keeping my birds. So I think I'm going to cut it right here. So I do my scissors. I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to make a cut about 1 inch all the way around, ensuring that I give myself room for error just in case. I really want to keep this bird to use for another time, so I'm actually going to go a little closer on this side because I do not want to sacrifice that bird because I know I can use it for a different project. So now that I've trimmed my piece and I've left myself with air all the way around, now I can start with the decoupage. I began decoupaging using a quality water-based sealer is what I prefer, especially when you're decoupaging with for furniture. So this is a quality water-based varnish that I'm using, and I'm using a brush. So because this is a larger area, I'm going to do this a section at a time. I began by laying down my varnish on my piece. I'm careful not to get my varnish anywhere that I don't want my paper to stick. One of the things I like to do is I like to look from the side to make sure that I have full coverage, because anywhere that I haven't put enough product is where I may end up with bubbles. I'm not worried about my edges so much because I can always go back afterwards and put more product. But I do want to make sure that my middle has full coverage. I like to stop with a straight edge because it makes it easier when I'm getting ready to fold my paper back, if I have that straight edge there. So I'm going to line my paper up and I'm going to go ahead and place it there. Place it down. Now using my fingers, I'm going to start on one side and work my way to the other side, pushing out any bubbles or wrinkles as I go. I want to apply enough pressure, but I don't want to apply too much because the more pressure I apply, the more my paper stretches and the more problems I cause for myself. Now that I've done that one, I'll pull this back and I'll pick up here and apply more product. Now, I'm going to unload my brush up here towards the top. I don't want to unload it near the paper because then you'll be able to see that. After I've unloaded some of the product, then I can go back and ensure that the spot underneath the paper has full coverage. Making sure I have full coverage, I go in with my paper and I continue rubbing until I've completed the entire piece. I can rub out any of the small wrinkles while it's still wet. The paper is 18 pounds. It's nice because it's light enough for me to be able to handle it, but it's tough enough that I can handle it and it won't fall apart. So I'm going to go in and put a layer of product over the top. And I want to let that dry completely before I go over to trim the edges. After my piece has completely dried, now I'll need to trim the edges. I'm going to use a sanding block. This particular sanding block is about a 220 grit. Anything lower and you risk tearing your paper. When I'm sanding off my edges, I'm only going to go in one direction. If I go side by side or go both directions, then I risk tearing my paper. So going in one direction, I'm going to go around until my paper is trimmed perfectly. Always going away from the piece. Until my piece is trimmed all the way around. You'll notice that the edge is completely flush and perfectly trimmed, and that's how you trim your piece.